right, so this tutorial is going to be a very basic introduction to Photoshop. This is your launch page. So when you click on your icon, this is what you get, and it says, what do you want to do? Do you want to create a new file or open something? And if you do want to open, here's your recent work, okay? You can see where I was playing around with the Workday picture for your for D2L. So let's say create new. All right. Yes, please create new. There we go. Okay. Now it's going to say, well, what do you want to do? We want to, and it remembers your recent items. So recently I've been doing 8 by 10.5, which basically fits on 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, which is fine. If you don't have any of these, you can set one up. You can, over here, you can say how wide you want it to be, and you can change the unit of measure. So in this case, let's do, whatever, we can stick with inches, that's fine. That's good. Inches is good for print material. Pixels is good for online stuff where it's going to be a digital file as opposed to a hard copy printed file. So we can stick with 8.5 or 8.5 by 11, whatever, for lack of a better one. And let's go sideways. Let's go, landscape. Cool. Resolution 300 pixels to the inch is good if you're going to print this thing out on paper. If you're not, if this is digital only, you can leave this at 72 pixels per inch. We can do 300 because, you know, who knows, we might want to print this out. RGB color is where we want to be. There are other ones. Grayscale if you're doing black and white photos. CMYK if you really are going to print this. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, that's a 4-process color. So for right now, RGB, we'll stick with that because that's best for computer screens, red, green, and blue. 16-bit refers to the bit depth, okay? So this means that for every color, you're going to have 4 bits of information. We don't need 32-bit. That's for something that has an alpha channel, okay? So leave that alone. We'll stay with 16-bit for now. 8-bit is really chunky and kind of blocky. Let's get 16-bit. That'll look a lot smoother. Okay, so background is going to be white. Yeah, that's great. Don't worry about these things. Pixel aspect, don't worry about that right now. This is just beginning stuff, okay? So we are going to say create. And voila, there we go. Okay, so here's the interface. We have, over here on the left, this is your toolbar. These are all your tools. You can move, you can do a marquee, all these fun things over here, erase, brushes, blah, blah, blah. You can also, you can edit your toolbar with this little dot, dot, dot right here. Okay. Just beneath that are your foreground color and your background color. Right, and you can change these by clicking here or by hitting the X key on your keyboard. That will swap these. This is for masks, and this one is for screen mode. Don't worry about that. That just takes away all your controls, which is kind of disconcerting when you don't even know what your controls are. So, tools here, and your foreground and background color. So, across the top, not a lot going on there right now. That's because the last thing I had selected was the text, which we're not going to do for just a minute. So ignore this top up here for now. We do have some drop-down menus. We have the usual. We have File. We have Edit. Image mode. We're going to use image, edit and image. We're going to use a good bit in this class. Layers for if you need to rasterize something or not. Type. We're going to get type. We'll get to that from a different way. Selections we are going to use. Filters we're definitely going to use. 3D probably not so much. View not so much. Window, this one will allow you to turn on and off a lot of the menus that you see over here on the right-hand side. So we will be using that a good bit, and then of course there's help. Okay, so let's go over here to the right side of your screen, and you have some menus over here. All right. Now I have this set up the way I personally like to have it set up. I always have my layers first because there's going to be a bunch of them, okay? And then I have history. History it's good for deleting things if you need to go back a bunch of steps. Channels, we'll get to channels in a minute. This is your RGB. And then paths, we'll get to paths if we do anything with a vector. So let's leave it with layers here. If you don't have these, you can go to Window and you can put a little check mark by them and they will show up. So down here, I always have adjustments. These are my adjustment layers, and we will do a lot with adjustment layers, particularly adjusting lightness and darkness of an overall scene. And then beneath that, I have my color picker. So, and notice that my color picker right now is showing the exact same colors here, foreground and background, as over here, right? So this is something where anywhere in Photoshop, pretty much anything you're going to do, there's multiple ways of doing it. So a lot of these tools can be accessed through a different route. You can right-click on something, you can open a menu, whatever it is, there's different ways of doing it. So we have we'll get started. So the first thing I want to talk about, and probably one of the most important, is layers. So we are going to, we start out with a background layer. And it's basically just a blank slate, blank piece of paper, okay? There is an eyeball. You can't turn this one on and off because it's locked, okay? You can unlock it, and you can lock it back by clicking here, right? So that just means you can't do anything to it. If you, what I'm doing is this is a left click on the mouse, all right? Now I can do things like I can move this thing around. And notice that behind it is this checkerboard pattern. This checkerboard means that it's transparent. Okay, you can see through it. So if you're ever doing something that you need to have transparency around it so you can lay it onto a different background, this is your transparency here, this checkerboard pattern. All right, so let's undo, put that back. All right, now, and I'm going to go ahead and lock it just for grins. We have an option here. Layer 0 is what it comes in as. If you double-click, so it's a left mouse double-click, you can give it a name. Let's call it background. Okay. Now, this eyeball tells you whether you can see it or not. You can also right-click and turn this a color. This is an organizational tool. For whatever reason, I always have my background layer be gray. And it doesn't affect anything on here. It's just like, it's almost like a tab, like an index tab. So it just helps you find stuff. So let's start making things. So we can, let's make some shapes. All right, so we're going to come down here. Now notice that most of these little tools, if you hover over them, a little window comes up. Now we're going to come down here to these shapes where it says ellipse. Notice how in the corner there's this little triangle. There's a little arrow. If you click on that, can I click and hold? So I'm click and hold with the left mouse button. I can choose a different shape. So let's say a rectangle. All right, now I'm going to make a rectangle. Now notice that as I made this rectangle, a new layer was created. Okay. Also notice that it came in filled with my foreground color. All right. And it has these little blue handles, which means that I can do things with it. So if I want to, I can change it around. Let's not do that for now. We'll just hit the Enter key, and we're done. Okay, so now we have a new layer. It says Rectangle 1, and it's visible. I can turn it off and on, just like in SketchUp with a little eyeball. Okay, I can change the name. If I double-click here, I can call this box. Okay, fine, it's a box. And it's filled with my color. So I can, if I go up here to my Move tool, I can click on it and move it around. Now, if I want to move it in a specific direction, I can hold down my Shift key and I will constrain it to horizontal or vertical. All right, and I'm lifting up the shift key in between these. Okay, so if I move it to the right, and then I lift the shift key, then I put the shift key back down again, and then I can go vertically. Okay, so I can also, if I need to, I can transform this. So the keyboard shortcut for transform is Control T, right? And that gives me these little handles so that I can scale this thing. All right. I can also, if I position my cursor in the corner, I can rotate. Now, if I hold down my shift key, let's say escape, let's get out of that. Let's try that again. Okay, Control T. Now, if I hold down my shift key, I can snap to 15-degree increments, which is really handy sometimes. Okay. Now, I can hit escape to get out of that, or I could go up here to the top and say, no, I don't want this, or yes, I do want this. I can also, if I'm rotating to a specific, let's say I have to rotate to some really, really specific degree. Let's say I need 22.5 degrees. Okay, I can type it in up here. Okay, so, and then if I say, nope, I don't want that, boop, it goes back to the way it was. So now we have our little box. Let's make another one, and we're going to play around with the functionality of these layers. Okay, so we're going to let's get a better color than this. And again, I tend to use this side. I tend not to use this for whatever reason. Whatever. Everybody uses it a different way. So we're just going to pick a color. Oh, by the way, if you're doing something that you know is going to go online, click here. Only web-safe colors will show up. Okay. So, yeah, purple is great. Yeah, sure, whatever, purple. Okay. So let's go back over here to our shapes. We're going to hold down, and let's get an ellipse. Let's talk about the ellipse. So this, we'll do an oval. Okay, ovals are nice. Oh, and it comes in with this color, okay, this green. We don't want that. So we are going to say Alt backspace, and that's going to flood fill with our foreground color. All right. Now I can move this around however I want. Okay. I can move my layer. Okay. If I so left mouse, click, hold, and drag, and see how it's blue. See how it highlights. Now I can put it underneath. So you see how these layers work. So whatever's above is on top. Okay. So now the green box is on top of the purple ellipse. Right. And if I want to change that, I can click, hold, drag until I see those blue lines. Now he's back on top again. So I can change how this appears. Let's see what else. With circles, if I want an actual circle, let's say I'm going to hold down the shift key, and this will drag a perfect circle. So it will drag from the upper left. Well, it'll drag from the corner, right? And let's say I'm going to fill that with my background color. Now, both of those were selected. Okay, I was on the same layer, so I don't want that. Control V. If I want, actually, let me do that. Let me totally undo that. Oh, you're not going to let me do it. All right. So we're going to do this. Hang on just a second. I'm going to not do that right now. Oh, that's right, because it's a smart object. Oh, poop. Well, that's all right. We'll have two of them. We'll talk about smart objects in just a minute. I don't want to get into that in this. This is actually getting a little bit long. So let's do some text, and then I'll stop this, and we'll get into some other objects. So for now, my ellipse layer now has two objects on it. Cool, fine. Let's go to the T for text, and we're going to put some text on here. All right. It comes in with this lorem ipsum, which is Greeking, but we can say anything we want. Okay. Hello, everybody. There we go. Now hit your Move tool, and let's bring it onto the page. Okay, there it is. All right, now, I want to change the color because I'm kind of tired of this purple. So let's go T for text, click and drag. This is with the left mouse button. All right. Now, I want that to be blue. Let's make it blue. Okay. Now, when I'm in the text tool, my text controls show up here, which is kind of nice. I can make it left justified. I can make it right justified. I can center it. I can do all kinds of funky stuff to it. I can change its size. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it bigger. Okay, that's nice. All right. I can change my font. Oh my gosh, I have all these crazy fonts I can switch over to. Yeah, whatever. I don't really care what this is. So I can move it around. Now, when I'm moving, make sure I'm picking on the actual letter, not out here, because that isn't going to do me anything. I need to click on the object. Okay. Let's see. When we come back in the next video, we will talk about some effects. So let's see. Oh yeah, this is 16 minutes. So that's it for now. Okay. Notice, so I've got 4 layers. Whenever I make a text, that will automatically make me a new layer. We'll talk about layers a little bit more in the next video. For now, I'm going to say File, Save, and I'm going to, yep, this is, no, not Monday. Hang on a second. Let me save this in the right place. This is Wednesday, and we're going to call this tutorial 1. Okay, fine. And that's saving as a PSD, which is a Photoshop format, and we're going to say OK on that one. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to have another one coming up with some more details.